Do something slightly different this morning. This came across my desk, and I wanted to watch it together with a few of you here to have some different opinions in chat. I love the game. I love what it can be. I'm not in love with what it is right now, but it is a work in progress. Nonetheless, we're gonna watch this real quick.
Today, we're diving into one of the dark undercurrents of the Star Citizen universe, the cheating problem. This is an issue that has lurked from the early alphas to the latest patches, and while I personally haven't yet encountered a hacker in my travels that I'm aware of at least, the reports from fellow players are too numerous and detailed to ignore. From mysterious one-shot kills and invincible enemies to game-breaking exploits flooding the economy, cheating and exploiting have cast a shadow over the verse.
Editorial note. I decided not to show cheating B-roll. I don't want to encourage this behavior. I've also redacted the websites and program names I found in my research. I won't make it easier for people to start cheating by watching this. That's fair. Like, I'm not saying I have my nose to the ground or anything, but there have been rumblings that I've been seeing for a little while now. Reddit post from yesterday or 2 days ago showing a full gear set and everything attached to it literally disappearing from the player. Now, again, I pulled up the post yesterday, but, you know, for me, I want to see the nit and gritty. Like, you know, the console menu, pop that down, because that would actually show the things, you know, being removed. It would show it. And not that I'm saying this did happen, but there was either earlier this week or late last week. I don't remember the exact day, but I was watching Zero State, and he was in his Gladius inside his hangar waiting to leave, and you can see the moment where his HUD just disappears, and his character's, you know, down to their skivvies, just basically naked in the game, right? Not saying those things are linked, but it happened the exact same way that the video in the Reddit post happened as well. Again, not saying that's what happened. This is a in development game and bugs can happen, but when you slow down the video of the clip that was on that Zero State, and then you look at the video from the Reddit post, what happens is nearly identical, where everything just literally disappears. Stranix, happy 4th. Thank you. Good morning. And it's becoming more prevalent. And then you have the more recent exploit of duping one of the commodities or something to that effect. But anyways, we'll get back to the video. Starting to hear more rumblings over and over and over, so I wanted to watch this.
In this report, we'll explore real examples of these illicit tactics, with Reddit sleuths and player names where possible, trace the history of cheating in Star Citizen, examine what Cloud Imperium Games is doing to combat them, and discuss next steps of the cheating arms race. Strap in. This is going to be an eye-opening journey into the scummy underbelly of the verse. Talking about this topic wasn't really something I planned on doing, but I've seen people in my comments say it's affected their experience, and I don't want to brush that off. I care about this community, and that means being willing to have real conversations, even when they're uncomfortable. I always try to present Star Citizen as fairly as I can, warts and all, and I know I have my own bias. And if cheating continues to be an issue, I'll keep covering it where it makes sense. Not for drama, but because ignoring it helps no one.
I'm not a big fan of that.
Why would anyone bother cheating in an alpha? It might seem pointless at first, but when you look at how much money the Star Citizen community has already poured into the game, it starts to make sense.
Time to run.
With people spending hundreds or even thousands of dollars on ships and gear, the stakes feel real, even in a test environment. That kind of investment creates competition, and some players want to get ahead by any means necessary. For others, it's not about winning, it's about making money. If there's demand for hacks or exploits, someone's going to sell them. And the truth is, games no one cares about don't attract cheaters. If your game has gold farmers or script sellers, it means people are paying attention. Let's start with what's happening right now. In recent patches in the Alpha 4.0 branch, players have reported a surge of hackers brazenly disrupting gameplay. The post from June 21st, titled "New Cheats Take Over the Game 4.1 to 4.2" by Almost Angel 1, pleaded with CIG, "This is getting out of hand, and more people have started cheating to break the game in which we have heavily invested. Please do something." We even submitted videos last time, but nothing happened. They described how his entire 12-person team was instantly wiped out during a mission. It was instant death, no uncapping. Our entire team of 12 people just died instantly. We had killed a player a few minutes before and were waiting for him to come back. Did not see anyone, but the entire team lost all the items we were carrying. Another player, U/Encado, raised a red flag about a hacker alert. In Encado's words, "I died 4 times while standing inside Port Olisar. Then the hacker caused people in the area to get crime stats. I now have a crime stat 4 as a result." This malicious hack essentially kills players on command in an armistice zone and even tricks the system into flagging victims as criminals, wrecking their session. The frustration was palpable. Encado vented that after a long day of work, they just wanted to relax, not deal with assholes. They filed a support ticket and shared screenshots, rallying CIG to address it immediately. Multiple similar anecdotes have popped up on Spectrum and Reddit. In one case, a mysterious player killed 7 people in rapid succession with what looked like instant no-warning headshots. The cheater likely disabled environment rendering on their end, a wall hack, to see targets through walls and took everyone out with perfect shots. There are also reports of cheaters abusing speed hacks and teleportation. One team recounted how a suspect player was initially taken down by legit means, only for that player to warp back with superhuman speed, appear behind the group, knock them out, steal a gun, and then massacre them in moments. No footsteps, no gunshots heard. Just boom, dead, as one crew described. And it's not just combat cheats. Star Citizen's economy has been a target too. Earlier in 2024, a wave of duplication and money exploits swept through the persistent universe.
Last summer,
Players discovered ways to duplicate ships and cargo to generate infinite commodities, converting them to illicit in-game currency, which some then sold for real cash on the gray market. This bug used as an exploit that let them sell the same cargo multiple times, essentially printing money. This went on for months, wrecking the in-game economy. Honest traders saw commodity prices and availability thrown out of whack, and servers were cluttering up with duplicated ships causing performance issues. As one frustrated pilot noted, "What's particularly annoying is that it almost takes more work to not use the dupe. It's super frustrating to have to keep storing your ship just to try to clear out the phantom duped inventory so you can pick up the cargo for the next leg." In other words, refusing to cheat put legitimate players at a disadvantage, as they had to jump through extra hoops to avoid glitched inventory, while cheaters were raking in easy cash. The cheating ecosystem around Star Citizen has grown disturbingly bold. There are websites openly selling Star Citizen cheat subscriptions for real money. On Reddit, user Almost Angel 1 noted, "You can find a site which publicly sells these cheats for $50 a month. They even have YouTube videos to show their customers how it is done." These aren't just one-off scripts passed in dark alleys. It's a commercialized cheat market with polished tools and presumably many buyers. A Discord server allegedly run by someone named Ace Toppy was full of cheaters coordinating until it was discovered and taken down. All of this paints a picture of a small but active underworld of hackers in the SC community, something many players never see directly, but which is undeniably there. It's important to state that most players are not cheating. Star Citizen is a huge game, and these incidents, while alarming, still seem relatively rare day to day. I know many of you, myself included, have played for months without witnessing anything overt. However, the trend is upward. As the game expands, especially with more PvP-focused content in the 4.x branches, the opportunities and incentives to cheat grow, and more players are encountering these unfair events. A Reddit thread titled "The Cheating Issue is Getting Worse" garnered many accounts echoing the same experiences. Whole crews killed by ghosts, ships blowing up inexplicably, people dropping dead with no shots heard or no health bar, just dead. For a long time, some skeptics chalked up odd deaths to bugs or lag, and Star Citizen certainly has plenty of those, but by now even veterans recognize some deaths are too suspicious to be glitch or player error. As one test squadron member quipped, "I get into PvP like twice a year. Always thought me blowing up from nothing was just lag. Interesting. Maybe I don't suck as much as I think, LOL." In short, cheating in Star Citizen has graduated from a whispered rumor to a visible, documented reality in 2025. Rewind to October 2020 when a player named U/Rifle Dude posted, "I actually encountered a legitimate cheater on live servers for the first time." This caught a lot of attention. The described behavior made it seem like the cheater had access to developer commands or tools. They were doing things not normally possible at all. The incident was initially shared on CIG's Spectrum forum, but that post mysteriously got removed, so the player turned to Reddit to share the story. The community managers did respond. CIG's Tyler Witkin acknowledged the issue, assuring backers that the devs were investigating the reported hack. "We've got the right people looking into it." Who? Top men. This was a significant moment. The first official CIG confirmation that yes, hacks exist in the PU. It wasn't just desync or imagination. To their credit, CIG treated it seriously. From 2020 onward, we saw a slow arms race. Cheaters would emerge with a new trick, CIG would patch a hole or improve security, then a new exploit would be found. By 2021, as we discussed, hacks that could kill players remotely and inflict crime stats appeared. In 2022, there were community members actively researching cheat programs, exposing program names which I've redacted, and sharing findings on how these tools operated. One YouTube expose in 2022 by the Group 11's Hanger walked through the state of cheats at the time, noting features like aim assists, extrasensory perception, ESP, and even ship ESP. It became clear that a suite of hacks was available to those willing to pay or tinker. Things like teleportation, spawning items or ships, one-punch melee kills, infinite ammo, no clipping through walls, and of course the typical aimbot ESP package for FPS combat. A major change came in late 2022 to early 2023. CIG integrated Easy Anti-Cheat, EAC, into Star Citizen's client. EAC is a well-known anti-cheat middleware by Epic that is used by many popular games. This was a clear response to the growing cheat threat. Initially, it caused some headaches. Players had to troubleshoot EAC installation errors just to launch the game. But it meant CIG was no longer leaving the door completely unlocked. By early 2023, some cheaters did seem to go quiet. Reports of blatant teleport hacks dropped. However, hardcore hackers adapted. Star Citizen's architecture still had inherent weaknesses a savvy programmer could exploit, and EAC mainly just stopped the low-hanging fruit. The simple memory editors, or known cheat executables. By mid-2024, the big money duplication scandal hit, which we touched on. This was less a hack and more an exploit, abusing game bugs, but it was cheating nonetheless. CIG responded with a public statement and mass bans. Over 600 accounts were suspended in June 2024 for abusing these exploits. Many accounts received a 3-month ban, with the most egregious ones being closed entirely without refunds. Will Leverett, CIG's Senior Director of Player Relations, stated unequivocally, "Cheating and exploiting undermine the integrity of our game. We take these actions seriously and assure you that we are continuously developing additional measures against cheating and exploitation." It was a strong message to the community that CIG was willing to drop the hammer to protect the game's economy and fair play. Many of those 600 accounts likely belonged to the worst offenders who duplicated millions of credits or sold ill-gotten goods on eBay.
More likely.
The player reaction was largely celebratory. Legitimate players were relieved to see consequences dealt out, which brings us to 2025, where the combat hacks have become the hot topic again. The game's expansion into more PvP content has unfortunately invited more shooter-style cheaters. Through it all, the majority of the community has remained passionately against cheating. This is a game built on dreams and immersion, and cheaters threaten both. While cheating will always exist in some form in any game, the hope is that Star Citizen can keep it to a minimum as we approach a more mature state.
So I think I don't know. I don't remember how long ago this was, but this was in the last month. Again, on Zero State's channel. He was, I think they were doing bounty hunting or doing something around Grimhex, and he was, maybe they were pirating. I don't know. Doesn't matter. They're in Crusader, around Yellow, Grimhex probably. But you could see a hacker actively doing things, and it was, you would see a blip of another character pop in, more than likely teleporting to Zero's location right at that moment, and then of course disappearing because that was part of the hack. And then for whatever reason, the instant kill or instant knockout couldn't be affected on Zero's character while he was inside the ship. Probably something to do with the current state of your character when sitting in the cockpit of your ship. But within 2, maybe 3 seconds of physically exiting the ship, Zero's character would be incapped and or killed. It was fascinating to watch. Kudos to Zero because it didn't seem to really get frustrated over it. I probably would have had a crash out, knowing me, but nonetheless, it was still fascinating to watch because it was happening to multiple characters who were in that area. They got some footage and the QR codes and whatever, and I hope that was kicked over to whoever at CIG, because as much as this game is irritating with the bugs and the performance sometimes, Katarn said it perfectly. It's with all its warts, if using his words, all the warts, the game is still beautiful. The game can be fun. When the game is good, it is good. And we just want the game to be good and not deal with the bullshit. Anyways.
So what are people suggesting to solve or mitigate the cheating problem, and what is the likely path forward for CIG? The community, being as involved as it is, has proposed a range of solutions born from a desire to safeguard the game they love. Meanwhile, CIG has its own plans to strengthen the game's defenses. Let's go through these. A common refrain is that CIG needs to make the server do more. As one user put it, the only way forward is for CIG to develop their own server-side cheat detection. The idea is an automated system server-side that flags suspicious actions instantly. For example, if a character deals damage to 10 others within 1 second without using an explosive, that's basically impossible normally, so
yeah, there's really no way to do that unless you literally have a group of 10 people standing in a circle right next to each other, and you toss a grenade or use a grenade launcher or maybe even a railgun, and that, I don't even know if a railgun has splash damage. Grenade launcher does, but with what Soul said, you teleport to get an instant ban. So, is it Infinity Ward that does COD still? But the devs, put those sort of detections on the back end that the player character was standing here at XY position, and then in less than a split second, they're now 400 meters over at this XY position. There's literally no way that can happen if the player was not killed or whatever. So yeah, instant ban. Things like that would be nice to have, because regardless of how you want to look at Star Citizen, it is a video game, but you are in a universe. You are in a solar system with 4 planets and 20 moons, give or take, a bunch of other locations that exist in the game, and you have to physically travel from point A to whatever other point you're going to. Even if you were spawning yourself at Grimhex and you teleported to wherever at that time Zero was, continued using that scenario, like, you're talking not just meters, you're talking tens upon tens, if not hundreds of kilometers from Grimhex to wherever their location was. And all video games, because that measuring system is the easier of all of them to code into a game. You have a player going from point A to that point B, going hundreds, if maybe sometimes thousands of kilometers. Yeah, that should be like, that should set off a red flag immediately and kick them, ban them, whatever.
auto flag, auto kick them. Or if a player's movement vector implies teleportation, rubber band them and log it.
Yes.
Some of this might already be quietly happening. We don't know.
That's fair.
Devs often don't advertise all detection methods.
Obviously.
But players want it beefed up. Additionally, reducing client authority step by step, ensuring that all hit detection is confirmed by the server, not the client, that physics impulses are server validated, etc.
The only, and I'm obviously not letting him finish his sentence, but the only issue with some of that is right now the netcode in the game is not at its greatest place, because the best performance that I've had in the game in the last probably week has been on very low population servers. And for context, for those who may not know, the hard cap, the soft cap on server on shards are 600, I think, still, and the hard cap is 700. So yesterday's shard was, I don't think, got higher than 200 players, and at most I remember only ever seeing 20 on my server. Now, to give further context to maybe say Aaron, is you have the shard is the over encompassing server that you are connecting to when you load into the game. All major areas are handled by servers. So you have the shard, and then you have independent server, not independent, but separate servers handling the major parts of the game that you're playing, whether it's Crusader, ArcCorp, Microtech, Hurston, some of the non-major areas like the actual space in between, so on and so forth. My point is, the netcode is not the greatest right now when you get on a high population server. So having the server do more work is only going to be a positive effect if the netcode is made better, so the connections and connections around aren't having that much desync or delays.
Will naturally eliminate many hack vectors. If CIG can move to a model where essentially the client is just an input device and a renderer, and everything else is decided by the server, then hacking becomes extraordinarily hard. Hackers would have to actually break into server code, which is beyond the scope of script kiddies and would veer into serious illegal territory. Of course, achieving that is difficult due to latency and load, but incremental progress is expected. Server meshing technology was one such improvement. More will come. Would CIG invest in building their own anti-cheat module? Possibly, as cheating really threatens the game's success. They have hired security engineers in the past. They mentioned improving account security and such, though that's more anti-fraud than anti-cheat. Suggestion: implement client-side encryption or obfuscation for critical data. For instance, if health values or positions were encrypted in memory or constantly randomized where they live, it'd be harder to make memory cheats.
True.
This is deep in programming weeds, but it's something cheat developers have to contend with in other games. Some games encrypt network packets or memory to thwart easy reading. Though nothing is unbreakable, it raises the bar.
True.
On enforcement, the community sentiment is overwhelmingly zero tolerance. I've often stated that CIG is marketing a live service game with ads, but lack the actual moderation that a live service game needs. Chances are you've seen Star Citizen ads on my videos. People want to see permanent bans, hardware bans if possible, to stop the same person just making a new account,
Casper,
and no leniency. CIG's EULA already states cheating can lead to a ban with no refund of pledge items. Losing a $1,000 fleet should scare cheaters, but most are probably using a starter package. Alternatively, some games have a system where suspected cheaters get put into a separate matchmaking pool, only playing with other suspected cheaters, a shadow realm of hackers. That's more for huge games and wouldn't apply well to SC's shard model and be a net drain on resources. Right now, reporting a cheater isn't very straightforward. You basically have to go out of game to issue counsel or send a support ticket. If an actual in-game report player function existed, similar to other MMOs, it could streamline the process. Of course, that can be abused, false reports, but those
false reports, and then you have to employ game wardens. So for instance, I spent many years playing Star Wars Galaxies, and they had, I don't know if I'm using the right term, but I think the context is there. You had game wardens. If there was suspected cheating or RMT or whatever the case may be, you had the game wardens who could enter the server and instantly teleport to wherever it is, and then they could see the data in real time and this, that, and the other. Basically kill that player, instant delete the account, ban the account, so on and so forth. That would doing in-game reports like that needs to have the other branches of that aspect of having game wardens, game admins, whatever you want to call them, who are employed to do those things and investigate and do that. And then you have the, you know, active game wardens who are in the game and can instantly teleport to different places here and there, yada, 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 et cetera, et cetera. But you would have to have that group of folks in the game actively doing that and not leave that up to developers, because the game's still in development. You need to have the people still making the game, fixing the game, making the game, so on and so forth. You'd have to add them as well.
This could feed into the detection pipeline for investigation. Another community-driven idea: some players have volunteered to form anti-cheat volunteer groups, basically players dedicated to hunting cheaters, by joining random servers.
And that brings up another point, Yuna. You know, you have those false reports, as you know, that is going to happen. I mean, I don't play Escape from Tarkov anymore, but, and as I say it at least once a day, how trash I am at PvP. I had a warning. I was reported. I had a warning done, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do with this. 'Cause I'm definitely not doing that thing. I'm not cheating in the game. I just had a good shot. I don't know. Apparently having a lucky good shot means that I'm cheating. I don't know. But anyways, nonetheless, yeah.
And looking for suspicious behavior, or even setting bait to attract hackers. It's a bit vigilante, but in a sandbox like SC, it's conceivable. However, ultimately, only CIG can ban, so these would just be more eyes on the ground feeding info to CIG. It speaks to how invested people are that they'd spend their game time doing this. Many in the SC community point out that CIG should proactively learn from the mistakes of games like Tarkov, GTA Online, etc. One big lesson is swift action and player communication are paramount once cheats are on the radar. The worst thing is to appear complacent. Also, engaging with cheat developers indirectly by monitoring their forums, which likely CIG's security team does, is important. Bungie's approach of lawsuits is extreme but effective in dissuading commercial cheat devs. If Star Citizen becomes much more popular, and if a big cheat-selling business targets it, I suspect CIG would use legal avenues. They have the resources, and I'm sure they'd defend their game. It hasn't come to that yet publicly, which implies the cheat scene is still relatively underground. CIG itself has said in that ban post, "We hope to act faster on issues like this in the future," acknowledging they took a bit long with the exploit and pledging quicker responses going forward. The role of transparency is also about managing expectations. Cheaters are a bit like pirates in the real world. You can suppress them, but you can't eliminate every last one. The goal is to keep it rare and on the margins so the average player never encounters it. My position on the channel is to acknowledge the threat cheating poses, not downplaying it as whatever, it's alpha. I may not have seen a cheater myself, but I stand with the community on this. We demand a fair playing field. I'll continue to highlight this issue in my videos where appropriate, not to spread fear, but to ensure it's never swept under the rug. If you encounter something fishy, report it through the proper channels. Share your story with evidence on Spectrum or Reddit to alert others, but don't witch hunt. The stars belong to the players, not to those who would steal victory in the shadows. Stay safe out there, and as always, I'll see you in the verse.
Like that, it's definitely not rampant, that is for sure, but it is there and it's happening. I've seen 2 cases, at least one case where it was blatant, and I've seen one that looked possible just because it was very similar in nature to what happened from that Reddit post that I mentioned earlier. But there's a lot of different avenues to take, a lot of different things to unfortunately becoming relevant, and it needs to, hopefully it gets addressed and done better and taken care of. Yeah, so have I, Soul, and I'm not gonna pull those up just because I'm in the same boat as Qatar, and I don't want to give the visibility to specifics. I didn't really necessarily mean to watch the video from that Reddit post yesterday on stream, but at the same time, I did. Anyways, yeah, that's